The most dangerous girl isn't the one who cheats on everyone. It's the one who only cheats on Stoic men. Because she knows they'll stay longer than anyone else. The most dangerous girl isn't the one who cheats on everyone. It's the one who only cheats on Stoic men. Because she knows they'll stay longer than anyone else. He thinks his silence is strength. She sees it as an invitation. It starts with empathy, hers, of course. She tells him about the ex who broke her. How she doesn't know if she can trust again. He listens, calm, grounded. He tells himself, this is a good thing. She's vulnerable. What he doesn't see is the test. Because she's not actually asking for protection. She's measuring what kind of cage he'll build for himself while she keeps the door open. Weeks pass. She's affectionate, intense, beautifully chaotic. She calls him her peace. But then, late nights start to shift. Her stories start to loop. Her phone starts living face down. He notices, but says nothing. That's who he is. Controlled, stoic. He tells himself, don't accuse. Don't assume. Be better. And that's exactly what she was counting on. Because this isn't about cheating. It's about power. And the one thing she loves more than chaos is a man who won't stop her. By the time he asks the right questions, she's already rewritten the story. And he's the villain for not trusting her sooner. This is how Stoic men lose everything and never even raise their voice. You've seen her before. You might be dating her now. And if you don't know how to spot the signs, you'll spend years being loyal to a lie. This is the story of her and how she breaks men who thought they were unbreakable. He's the kind of man who doesn't chase chaos because he's spent years mastering silence. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't send 5 texts in a row. He doesn't beg. He believes in discipline, restraint, logic. While other men crumble in emotion, he remains still. He doesn't argue because he doesn't need to win the room. He walks away before it turns ugly. He believes walking away is strength. That's why she picks him. Not because she wants peace, but because she wants control over someone who won't fight back. You think he's immune to manipulation? He's actually perfect for it. Because when the storm comes, he blames himself for feeling it. She can say the most insane thing, disappear for days, twist a story into a labyrinth, and he'll pause, breathe, and say, maybe I misunderstood. Not because he's weak, but because he values composure more than confrontation. And that's exactly what gets him trapped. The world sees him as stoic, unshakable, but what they don't see is the growing confusion inside. She says one thing, but does another. She cries, then laughs. She says, you're the only one, but texts like she's not. He catches fragments, half-truths, strange patterns, but he doubts his own instincts. Because he's trained himself not to react. That's the paradox. The more stoic he is, the less he speaks up. The less he speaks up, the more she controls the narrative. And slowly, quietly, he becomes the one apologizing for her lies. He's not being manipulated with volume. He's being dismantled with whispers. And the worst part? He still believes he's in control. This isn't just a personality mismatch. It's emotional asymmetry. She lives off impulse. He survives on discipline. But you can't solve emotional chaos with logic. And no amount of calm can fix a storm that enjoys being a storm. He's not dating a broken girl. He's dating a battlefield that looks like a rescue mission. And every day he stays, he loses one more piece of himself, quietly. Until he forgets who he was before she needed saving. She doesn't storm into your life like a villain. She drips in slowly, like a story you want to believe. She's soft-spoken, emotionally open, maybe a little too open. She tells you things no one else knows. Childhood pain, toxic ex, betrayals. She's been through a lot. You don't see a threat. You see someone who needs safety. You offer it, quietly, consistently, stoically. She responds with warmth, texting good morning, late night voice notes, random affection. You think, she's different. She's real. And that's exactly the problem. You weren't chosen for who you are. You were chosen for how you react. She doesn't want chaos right away. She wants security, long enough to make you invest. Then come the first cracks. One night she vanishes, no reply for hours. When she finally texts back, it's vague. Sorry, my mind's been a mess. You don't press. You give space. Next time. It's your fault. You've been distant lately. You pause. You replay every moment. Were you? She doesn't shout. She doesn't rage. She subtly reframes every moment to question your own memory. You ask about a guy who keeps showing up in her messages. She laughs. He's just a friend. Funny how you always assume the worst. You feel guilt for noticing. This is her power. She never lies directly. She distorts through vulnerability. And just when you pull back, she breaks down, crying, shaking, telling you how scared she is to lose someone like you. You hold her. Of course you do. You're the Stoic. You don't react. You absorb. And somewhere in that moment, you decide she's worth the confusion. That's the moment she wins. Because now, you're managing her emotions while ignoring your own. Her pattern? Chaos right pointing arrow confession right pointing arrow comfort right pointing arrow confusion right pointing arrow repeat. And it's so perfectly timed, you start to think maybe you are the unstable one. You try to explain things logically, hoping she'll understand, but you're using blueprints in a burning house. You begin to notice she never takes responsibility, but always claims the pain. She flirts in front of you, then accuses you of being insecure. She disappears when you need her, then blames her trauma when you call it out. She gets jealous over nothing, but calls your concerns controlling. Every time you speak up, you become the reason she shuts down. And the sickest part? She always returns just when you're ready to leave. You think that's love. It's not. It's control disguised as fear of losing you. But she doesn't fear losing you. She fears losing someone who doesn't punish her for lying. And deep down, you're afraid of seeming like the bad guy for finally drawing the line. So you don't. And just like that, the trap resets. This isn't just manipulation. This is emotional architecture, designed for men who think silence is protection. You think she chose you for your strength. She chose you for your tolerance. Because the more chaos she brings, the longer you'll stay, trying to be the stable one. And the longer you stay, the less of yourself you'll recognize. It always starts with her needing you. Her panic attacks at 2 a.m. Her, I don't know who else to call. Her, please don't leave like everyone else did. You're tired, but you answer. You always answer. You think you're helping, but she's testing. How far will you bend before you break? One day, she leaves her phone face up by mistake. A message flashes. You read the name. A guy you've heard about, barely. You don't explode. You wait, ask casually. She laughs it off. Oh my God, you're so paranoid now? That one sentence resets the game. You start questioning not her, but yourself. Days later, she disappears again, then comes back with tears and a gift. She says she's been struggling. You say nothing. Again. And that's the beginning of phase 2. When silence becomes your prison and her weapon. She begins correcting your memories. That's not how it happened. You mention a hurtful comment. She swears you imagined it. You ask why she didn't reply for hours. She says you're suffocating her. Every confrontation turns into a confession from her. I feel broken. I feel lost. I don't want to mess this up. You start comforting her for the pain she caused you. Then comes the big twist. She accuses you of being emotionally unavailable. You, the one who stayed through every meltdown, held her through every trauma tale, canceled plans to be with her during a bad day. Now, suddenly, you're the distant one. You feel stunned, but you don't fight it. Stoics don't react, they reflect. So you reflect, and in doing so, you surrender. She begins rewriting the relationship entirely. She says you don't make her feel safe. You know it's false. But some part of you wants to prove her wrong, not leave. And now, you're the one chasing her. From here, it gets worse. She starts casually mentioning guys who flirt with her at work. She, accidentally, posts a photo with one of them in the background. You see it, you feel it, but you've already been cast as the insecure one, so you say nothing. You're living in a relationship where every rule is upside down. You offer commitment, she calls it pressure. You ask for respect, she calls it control. You stay loyal, she calls it boring. And every time you try to leave, she pulls out a new layer of pain, a trauma, a panic, a memory that reopens the rescue mission. The relationship becomes a performance. She plays the part of healed. You play the part of unshakable. But both of you are lying. She's not healing, she's feeding. And you're not strong, you're just numb. You stopped questioning her, because you're exhausted from questioning yourself. Your friends notice, your family says you've changed. You defend her, you say, it's complicated. No, it's not. It's engineered chaos, custom built for a man who prides himself on never raising his voice. And soon, you realize something terrifying. She's not the emotionally broken girl you met. She's in control. She knows what she's doing. The tears are timed. The breakdowns are rehearsed. The apologies are bait. You thought she needed love. What she needed was an audience. And she picked you, because Stoic men don't scream when they're bleeding. They bleed in silence. And she loves the sound of it. He finally notices. Not just the phone flips, the vanishing acts, or the strange new followers. He notices her pattern. She breaks the rules, cries about the consequences, then blames him for reacting at all. So one night, calmly, he asks, no accusations, no anger, just a single sentence. Are you being honest with me? She freezes, then sighs, then flips the script. I can't believe you'd even ask me that. After everything I've told you. She makes your suspicion the betrayal. Now you're the one apologizing for finally noticing what's been eating you alive. That's your mistake. Thinking truth is something you'll eventually earn. You still believe if you're calm enough, patient enough, gentle enough, she'll stop hiding. But you haven't realized, she's not hiding. She's performing. And the audience is you. You tell yourself, maybe this is just a trauma response. Maybe if I love her better, this stops. But it doesn't stop. It escalates. One night she shows up at your place crying. No explanation. You ask what happened. She says she doesn't want to talk about it. Later, a tagged photo surfaces. Different clothes, different city. You confront her. She says, I was scared to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you. That phrase, I didn't want to hurt you, becomes the shield she hides every lie behind. And you believe it, not because it makes sense, but because you still think she means well. You still think this is a relationship. It's not. It's a slow leak of sanity. You thought your silence made you wise. But silence, in the face of gaslighting, makes you complicit. Every time you take the high road, she redraws the map. And now, you're deep in a maze you helped build by refusing to call a lie a lie. You thought staying calm made you safe. It made you predictable. And that predictability became her playground. She knows exactly what you'll say, how long you'll wait, when you'll break. You think you're the one in control because you never yell. But control isn't silence. It's knowing when to walk away and meaning it. And that's the mistake Stoic men make. They wait too long. They give too much. They confuse stillness with strength, even as they drown in it. And by the time they see clearly, she's already rewritten the ending. To her friends, she's the one who tried. To herself, she's the victim of your emotional coldness. And to you, you're just another man who couldn't handle her truth. But the truth is, you handled too much, and she knew you would. It doesn't come from a text you weren't supposed to see. It doesn't come from a friend slipping up. It comes when she lets something slip on purpose. A name, a time, a reference that makes no sense, unless you know what to look for. And by now, you do. Your gut twists. You don't yell. You don't accuse. You just ask, softly. Who is he? She hesitates, not shocked, not guilty, calculated, then shrugs. I mean, we talked. It didn't mean anything. That's the first fracture. You wait for shame. You wait for regret. But all she gives you is deflection. I didn't tell you because you're always so calm. I never know what you're really feeling. Now you're not just betrayed. You're being blamed for being too composed to be trusted. And somehow, that argument makes you feel guilty again. That's the sickness. You start explaining your silence while she explains away her lies. She turns it into a relationship problem, not a betrayal. We weren't in a good place. You've been distant lately. You're now defending your emotional restraint while she reframes infidelity as emotional survival. But it gets worse. She didn't cheat once, not just with one person. It wasn't a slip. It was a pattern, designed for cover. You find more. Old photos she never deleted. Messages archived under fake names. Shared playlists that aren't yours. Still, she doesn't panic. She performs, crying, apologizing, trembling, until you feel sorry for her. And once again, you're holding her while she cries over the damage she caused. And here's the twist you didn't expect. She didn't hide this forever. She wanted you to find it. Because she was tired of the act. Tired of your grace. Tired of your quiet strength that never gave her drama to feed on. So she created the explosion. Quietly, strategically. And when you didn't explode, she smiled. Not with her mouth, with her eyes. Because now, she can finally say, "See? You never really cared," and walk away first. You think she feared losing you. She didn't. She feared being the one left behind. So she made sure she left you, emotionally, long before you ever had the chance. And the truth is, she never wanted peace. She wanted power. And when Stoic men give forgiveness instead of fury, that power becomes absolute. You thought love would save her. You thought patience would prove something. But in her world, your silence was proof you didn't matter. And your calmness? It made you forgettable. She didn't cheat because she was broken. She cheated because you didn't break. And she needed to watch you crack to feel real. You weren't her partner. You were her mirror. And she shattered you to make sure she still existed. He doesn't leave when he finds out. He doesn't scream, block her, or call his friends to vent. He sits in his car, engine off, phone in hand, staring at a message that confirms everything. And for the first time in months, maybe years, he can't think. No inner monologue, no rationalization, just static. He isn't angry, he isn't hurt, he's empty. That's the part no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't burn. It freezes. And the worst part? It doesn't even feel surprising. He replays it all. The slow pull back, the subtle digs, the kisses that started to feel more like currency than care. He remembers moments that didn't make sense then, but now form a perfect, brutal pattern. Still, he doesn't move. Stoics aren't impulsive. They observe. They absorb. But what happens when you've absorbed too much? When you've swallowed so much contradiction? You forget what truth tastes like? That's when you break, not by explosion, but implosion. He walks back into the apartment like nothing happened. She's there, scrolling her phone. She looks up, smiles faintly, says, "Hey babe." He stares for a second too long. She notices, but doesn't ask. She never asks anymore, and he never offers. Not truth, not emotion, just surface. That night, they go to bed like normal. But it isn't normal. His breathing changes. His silence is heavier, and hers, lighter, because she thinks she's won. He didn't fight. He didn't cry. He stayed. That's the trick. She thinks staying means losing. But this time, it doesn't. This time, staying means watching. Something inside him quietly detaches. He stops reacting, not out of discipline, but because he no longer sees her as real. She speaks, he nods. She jokes, he smiles. But behind his eyes, nothing. The man who once tried to save her is gone. Not loud, not angry, just gone. And now she senses it. She becomes clingier, weirder, erratic. "You've changed," she says. "You don't look at me the same." He doesn't, because he's finally seeing clearly. Not her, himself. He finally asks, "Why did I stay so long with someone who confused chaos with love? Why did I trade truth for tension? Why did I think being calm meant being good?" That's the breaking point. Not when she lies, not when she cheats, but when he realizes he let her. And not because he was stupid, but because he thought endurance was virtue. That patience would heal. That quiet was power. But in the hands of the wrong person. Stoicism becomes self-erasure. Now, he understands. Love doesn't require noise, but it does require clarity. And what he had was fog. Beautiful, addictive, emotional fog. She doesn't notice when he emotionally checks out. Not at first. She thinks he's just having a mood. But then he stops asking. Stops fixing. Stops caring when she says, "We need to talk." She panics. Because the only thing scarier than a man who gets angry is a man who no longer feels anything. And that's who he is now. Not bitter, not broken, just done. Quietly, completely, and for once, his silence is not tolerance. It's truth, and it's the one thing she never knew how to handle. Maybe you're watching this thinking, "I'd never let that happen to me." But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't realize you're in it until you've been in it too long. Because it never starts with manipulation. It starts with connection. You relate to her pain. You admire her strength. You see someone who's been hurt, and you want to be the one who doesn't leave. That's not weakness. That's humanity. But when someone knows how to weaponize that instinct, they don't need to lie loudly. They just have to make you doubt your ability to tell what's real. And Stoic men are perfect for that, because they don't scream. They study. They don't confront. They internalize. They don't explode. They erode. And when erosion happens slowly enough, you don't see what's missing. Until you're the one apologizing for being confused. Until your needs start to feel like threats. Until your calm becomes a prison you built for yourself. And if you've never been there, good, but some of you have. And you're nodding now, not because it's dramatic, but because it's familiar. You remember the small things. The way you had to measure your tone before speaking. The way compliments started to sound like warnings. The way silence filled the room after you asked the wrong question. And maybe you stayed because you believed love meant endurance. Maybe you believed she would eventually come back to the girl you met at the start. But here's what no one tells you. The version of her at the beginning wasn't real. It was a role, a lure, a promise she never planned to keep. And the more you loved that version, the more you suffered under the one she truly was. That's how emotional predators operate. They don't need chains. They use your values against you. Your loyalty becomes the leash. Your empathy becomes the cage. And your discipline becomes the silence that lets them do it again. But don't hate yourself for falling in. The fact that you stayed too long doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The mistake wasn't caring. The mistake was thinking caring could cure someone who wasn't sick, just selfish. Because not all damage comes from people who are hurting. Some of it comes from people who enjoy what hurting does to others. And once you accept that, once you finally admit that you were targeted not despite your strength but because of it, everything shifts. You stop blaming yourself. You stop trying to rewrite the story. And you finally ask the question that matters most. What part of me thought I deserved to be treated that way? And that's when healing starts, not when you forgive her, not when you forget, but when you forgive yourself for staying quiet when your soul was begging you to leave. You thought stoicism would protect you. You believed that by staying calm, staying grounded, staying above it all, you were unbreakable. But here's the twist. That's exactly what made you a target. You didn't react. You didn't escalate. You didn't demand. So she pushed. And pushed. And when you didn't flinch, she didn't respect you more. She tested harder. Because here's what emotional predators crave most. Feedback. They need a mirror. They need chaos. And when you don't give them that, they don't think you're strong. They think you're asleep. And once they believe you're asleep, they don't feel guilty anymore. They feel free. So how do you stop it? How do you protect yourself without becoming someone you hate? You start with this. Understand that stoicism is not silence. Self-control is not self-erasure. Your emotions are not threats, they're data. If someone makes you feel consistently confused, guilty, or inadequate, and can't own their role in that, you're not in love. You're in danger. So here it is, the 15-second test. Ask yourself, if I bring up a need, a fear, or a boundary, does this person make me feel safe for expressing it, or punished? That's it. Don't overthink it. Don't rationalize. Just answer it honestly. Because someone who loves you might get uncomfortable, but they will never punish you for being vulnerable. Manipulators will, always, quietly, slowly, indirectly, but absolutely. They'll mock your timing, your tone, your lack of proof. And by the end, you'll be apologizing just for needing anything at all. That's not stoic strength. That's emotional starvation. And it gets worse. Because if you keep overriding that gut feeling, if you keep tolerating low-level disrespect in the name of being the bigger person, you're not rising above. You're sinking, quietly, proudly, alone. So here's the new rule. Your silence must be a boundary, not a blindfold. You don't need to argue, but you do need to notice. You don't need to yell, but you do need to walk. You don't need to save her. You need to save you. And if that feels dramatic, ask yourself, why is protecting your peace more uncomfortable than watching it slowly disappear? The truth is, most stoic men don't get destroyed in one moment. They get drained across years. Because they confuse peacekeeping with peace. But peace that requires you to shrink is not peace. It's pressure. And pressure always ends one way: explosion, collapse, or abandonment. You decide which, or you decide to leave before any of them happen. She doesn't think she's a monster. Not at first. She thinks she's surviving. You call her manipulative. She calls it instinct. She tells herself, if I don't control the connection, I'll be left again. So when she meets a stoic man, her first thought isn't how can I hurt him? It's how can I feel safe with someone I can't read? His silence? Terrifying. His calm? Confusing. His consistency? Addicting. Because for once, she doesn't have to perform, at least at the start. He doesn't need her to cry harder or scream louder to prove she's real. He listens. He absorbs. And that makes her feel seen. But that feeling is foreign, unsafe, suspicious. Because peace, to her, feels like the calm before the abandonment. So she tests him. Tiny tests at first. Late replies. Little lies. Minor guilt trips. Not to hurt him, but to see if he'll stay when she stops pretending to be perfect. And when he does, something inside her panics. Because now he's passed the test, and that means he has power. So she flips the game. Before he can hurt her, she'll destabilize him. If he doesn't flinch, she'll push harder. If he stays calm, she'll create chaos. Not because she wants to lose him, but because she needs to confirm she was never safe to begin with. That's the addiction. Not love, not connection. Confirmation of her worst fear, so she can say, see? I knew it. That's why she targets men like him. Not because he's weak, but because he's strong enough to stay, just long enough for her to reenact every trauma she never healed. And when he finally withdraws, emotionally empty, she'll call him cold, detached, unavailable, because the only version of love she knows is pain. If it's peaceful, it's fake. If it's calm, it's hiding something. If it's good, it won't last. So she breaks it before it breaks her. But here's the twist. She doesn't move on. She repeats, again and again, different faces, same game, always chasing a man calm enough to endure her chaos, and always blaming him when he disappears into silence. And sometimes, when she's alone, when the chaos fades and the silence is real, she wonders if maybe, just maybe, she was the storm all along. But then the fear returns. The itch, the impulse, and the cycle starts again. New man, new calm, same war, same end. And that's why she targeted you. Not because she wanted to hurt you, but because she hoped, for a moment, that you might finally be the one strong enough to stay through the fire. And when you didn't burn, she made sure you froze. It doesn't end with betrayal. It doesn't end with a fight. It ends with breakfast, quiet, polite, performed. He watches her pour coffee like nothing's wrong. She smiles like nothing's missing. But everything is, and they both know. She talks about work. He nods. She jokes about the weekend. He half smiles. Neither mentions the night before, the missed call, the name she said in her sleep, the silence that swallowed them both. Because this isn't about evidence anymore. It's about knowing. The kind of knowing that doesn't need proof. Because the soul has already accepted what the mind kept denying. So he stands, calm, collected. She looks up, surprised by the timing. Not the decision. He picks up his keys. No outburst. No accusations. No, we need to talk. Just this. A deep breath. And a pause. She wants to say something. Anything. Maybe apologize. Maybe attack. But she doesn't. Because this is the moment she feared most. Not the breakup. Not the leaving. The silence she can't control. He walks to the door. She watches. Her eyes scan his face, looking for anger, tears, anything she can use to pull him back. But he gives her nothing. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity, because he finally understands. Reacting is what kept him trapped. Silence isn't weakness. This time, it's closure. And as he opens the door, she almost says his name. Almost, but doesn't, because if she does, she knows he might pause, might look back, might hesitate, and she's not ready for that power to be gone. So she lets him go. Quietly, the door clicks shut, not slammed, not locked, just closed. And that's the end. No drama, no closure text, no last night tears. Just a man who walked away, not because he stopped caring, but because he finally cared enough to stop. You'll think you're healed the day you stop missing her. You're not. Healing doesn't happen when the pain fades. It happens when you stop blaming yourself for feeling it. One day, you'll hear her name and feel nothing. You'll find an old photo and won't flinch. You'll tell the story without bitterness. But there will always be a scar. Not because you still love her, but because you once loved with everything. And someone used that as an entry point. That scar is your proof. You made it out. But it's also your responsibility. Because now, you know the pattern. You've seen behind the mask. And it's on you to protect the man you were before her from happening again. You'll meet another, different voice, same chaos. And this time, it won't take years. It won't take heartbreak. It'll take a sentence, a look, a shift in energy. And you'll know, not because she said something wrong, but because you've changed. That's the wisdom. Not becoming colder, just clearer. Not building higher walls, just better doors. And one day, you'll see someone who reminds you of her, and you won't feel fear. You'll feel compassion, because now you understand. People like her aren't villains. They're storms, beautiful, powerful, but impossible to build a home inside. You admire them from a distance. You never step in again. And if you do, you don't stay. That's the final gift. Not revenge, not closure, discernment. And maybe one day, a younger man will come to you, tired, confused, asking how to survive a love that makes him feel less like a man and more like a mirror for someone else's pain. And you'll say this: if you feel like you're slowly disappearing in the name of love, it's not love. It's self-erasure dressed in devotion. And he'll look at you, unsure, and you'll smile, not because it's funny, but because you remember being him. And now, you remember being you, whole, clear, stoic, not because you hold everything in, but because you finally know what to let go of.